Let's be real here. Many of you will probably never quit Nike, at least not fully. I'm not even sure I could fully commit to it, but that doesn't mean there aren't reasons to quit. What's up everybody, I'm Reggie Casual if you didn't know already, and today we're talking Nike and listing out 7 reasons why you should quit the brand altogether. That's the pitch, this is the intro. We begin this list with quality. While some will argue that Nike's sneaker quality is the best it's ever been, others are less than keen to agree. And that's because the quality is inconsistent. Some releases are incredibly high quality while others not so much. And the reason why is because Nike has to meet the demand of an ever-growing consumer base, which inevitably leads to quality control issues. While some will complain about the switch from genuine leather to nubuck or how Air Maxes used to be of incredible make pre-2006, those really aren't the main issues, at least not in my opinion. The issue is when Nike releases a premium version of the sneakers using the old materials and they are sold as a high quality version. Like tumbled leather on Jordans, like come on. When a company has to sell you on their old ways to make extra cash, it seems a bit underhanded and more than enough reason to leave them to their own devices. Another reason that has plagued Nike for a minute is their creative department seems to be a bit stagnant. Admittedly, this is not all their fault as the market shifted towards retros heavy in the early to mid 2010s, and as a result, it's not only Nike that has had this retro fever. However, Nike has the most popular sneakers in the world, and yet another colorway of the same Jordan 1 is getting a bit played. And when they do have a new IP, they milk its popularity far too soon. Take note of the ill-fated React Element 87 and the Sacai LD Waffle. I mean, to be honest, we should probably applaud Nike for releasing more of those models, but in such quick succession and at the same time makes it seem more cash grab than building a legacy of genre-defining sneakers. It also seems like Nike is handing all of its creative and unique takes to its deftly chosen collaborators, and those are usually limited, making them harder to get and generally less appealing due to the work involved in getting them if you aren't lucky enough to get them at launch, let alone the price. While certain models are certainly intriguing, the overreact notwithstanding, they're too few in between, leaving diehard fans with very few models to choose from other than the most popular ones that everybody's gonna get anyway. Next up, we got alternatives. As fans of fashion and footwear, we must admit that we talk a mad game when it comes to supporting independent designers. Some of you out there even want to start your own labels and brands and would hope that sentiment runs true. Problem is, much of that talk is laced with hypocrisy, as there are tons of alternatives to choose from, but quite often, we don't choose them. And it's not just like we're not choosing Adidas or New Balance, which has admittedly been getting love recently. Asics, Puma, Reebok, and especially Salomon all have great models. People just don't mess with them enough. And let's not talk about the independents, which I alluded to before. No Two Ways, Filling Pieces, Clearweather, Sia Collective, and Rombout have great offerings that will allow you to stand out even among the high fashion crowd without breaking the bank in many cases. In fact, that sounds like a list right there. 7 independent sneaker labels killing it right now. One can only dream. And quite often, those labels use superior materials, more than enough reason to move on from the swoosh. Which brings us to our next point, the environment. Nike, to be completely fair, is actually not as bad environmentally as its history suggests. That's not really saying much, but in all transparency, the brand has since earned plaudits far and wide for its efforts. A few years ago, Business of Fashion reported that Nike had successfully transformed its tarnished image to become a recognized sustainability leader. Morgan Stanley even ranked Nike the most sustainable apparel and footwear company in North America for environmental and social performance, including its labor record. So there's that. However, the company still has a long way to go on sustainability, and many of those problems could be solved on the consumer side. Quitting Nike based off of wanting them to go even further in their environmental efforts would certainly quicken their attitude. The only reason why any company doesn't move faster in this regard is because not enough pressure or concern has left those companies with a negative bottom line. Until that pressure reaches an apex, Nike will drag its feet a bit, and if the science is any indication, we don't have time for feet dragging. So this one isn't all on Nike, it's just a responsible decision. Or look at it this way, if the ice caps melt, they'll probably destroy a ton of crispy new pairs you plan to pick up in the future. So you gotta think ahead. While Nike has made strides in environmental progress, its business tactics can and often are exploitative, but that's only because people fall for it every time and nobody complains. Some people do, they actually complain. Some people complain. Manufactured scarcity is something Nike employs all the time to get fans in a fever pitch about sneaker releases by constantly making more and more limited special pairs. This has led to an increase in price gouging on the secondary market, leaving all but the richest of the rich in the best pairs, or at least the most popular ones. We'll get into that later. However, by employing this method via its famous sneakers app, or infamous, I should say, Nike has essentially turned its back on OGs and placed its bets firmly in the land of hype. Sure, they still sell Air Force Ones, Air Maxes, and a bevy of runners, but for lifestyle sneaks, the ones that the community of Nike fashion fans love, it's essentially the lottery. Nike could flood the market with a ton of sneakers for nearly all fans to enjoy. Hell, they do that every time they milk a new popular model. But that is preferable than kowtowing to the hypebeasts and resellers that whine because the value of the sneaker isn't as high now. Seriously, the only people complaining about milking a model to embarrassing lengths are those that are resellers and hype-driven fashion heads. Number 2 on this list is reps. We had to talk about it, right? Like reps. For the record, I do not condone or support the buying and or selling of reps, but one must be completely thorough and objective about all the angles here. And reps are by far one of the biggest reasons you could quit Nike. Reps in the past were admittedly god-awful, but today a good rep is near indistinguishable from the genuine article, which, if we're being honest, presents a whole other set of issues too lengthy to be explained here. But if you must have a model, if you're dying to have that shoe and you aren't willing to spend the often egregious price of resale, then reps are an option. Not a recommended option via THECASUAL, but they are an option. Again, this is alleviated easily by simply seeking out other labels instead of banking on the high social status that Nike apparently carries in its releases. But I understand that means a lot to some folks, so yeah, if it means that much to you to have that sneaker model, you could totally quit Nike by buying reps, like good ones, which, to be clear, I don't/can't recommend. And finally, last but certainly not least, ubiquity. What the hell does ubiquity mean, you say? Specifically, it means the fact of appearing everywhere or of being very common, i.e., it's damn near everywhere. And Nike is as ubiquitous as it gets. To be clear, there's nothing wrong with a ton of people wearing Nike. You like what you like, right? Who am I to say? Who cares, right? But ubiquity for Nike takes on several different forms. One, it has created a culture of what was once niche collectors to a culture of flagrant competition. And two, because of that competition, the value of limited releases have skyrocketed to a point where only the wealthy can play the game, which in turn gives the wheels of style to those of influence, the very individuals who quite often have the least amount of creative and or progressive style. How do I know this? Nearly all the styles that we know today were popularized by groups and subcultures, and none of them had famous people rocking them from the onset. It was a lifestyle choice. Now you have arbitrary people via media sources claiming what sneakers are hot and which ones are not, ensuring those who are impressionable have no choice anymore when it comes to personal aesthetic. Nobody wants a dystopian future where everyone looks the same, right? At least I don't think so. But Nike perpetuates this. And again, there's so much else out there, but I totally get it. Quitting Nike is probably not it, chief, for many of you. But I find that odd considering how many people complain about nobody giving new brands and designers a shot. It's incredibly hypocritical because the truth is Nike confirms something many of us already know. The vast majority of those who partake in fashion are doing so to obtain a level of social status. And it's just crazy how a simple sportswear company that's not even luxury has become one of the most important de facto social status symbols of the fashion world, the world in general. It's no wonder why people buy reps. With that said, how many of you have cut down on your Nike intake, if at all? Or did you never mess with them before? Or do you simply disagree with the entire premise of quitting Nike? Let it all be known in the comments. It's a discussion. And also, sub if you haven't already, throw a like if you enjoyed, or turn on the notifications if you can. We would like that. Or even suggest another list you want to talk about, discuss, or, see what we come up with. But most importantly, keep it locked right here for all of your info on international fashion, culture, and business from Tokyo. It's your boy, and keep it casual. Yoroshiku onegai shimasu. And I'll see you guys in a minute. じゃあ、今日はここまでです。I'm out.